Did you know that if you ask Tinder for all of the information they hold about you, that they legally must supply it? Neither did I. So you can imagine my surprise when I asked Tinder for everything they had about me, and 2 days later, they sent it through. So what kind of information is Tinder holding about you? And how can you access it right now? Keep watching to find out. So as it turns out, when the new GDPR business rules came out in 2018, Tinder and in fact most other online dating sites are now legally required to provide, upon request, all the information they hold upon any individuals who are subscribed to their service. Of course, there's no surprise that Tinder or Bumble or Hinge and none of these apps actually broadcast this fact because they don't really want you to have access to this information, even though they have to supply it if you ask. So what kind of data is Tinder storing? Is it useful at all? Well, let's have a little bit of a look. It's not as exciting as I'd hoped, but here's what Tinder is storing about you that might be of use. Number one, the first thing, of course, is your IP address that it's storing about you. This is one of the reasons why it can be hard to reset your account or if you've been banned, why a lot of people struggle because their IP address stays the same. That's one of the biggies. The second thing they store is your very precise GPS locations. They know exactly where you are. I think it's accurate on Tinder down to about a meter or so. So there you go, no easy hiding from them. Number three, of course, they've got a record of all the messages you've sent. Now, interestingly, what Tinder does is it doesn't save onto your profile all the messages sent to you. It only saves all the messages you've sent, and that's the way that it saves information. I think they've done that kind of in a very shoddy way, but they did it to minimize the amount of information they can legally say they hold about a person. And Tinder will also store information about all the places that you've visited in the 3 months. Now, none of that is necessarily very interesting or useful, but I'll tell you what Tinder does store about its users that can be used to analyze your account, especially for someone like myself as a Tinder coach, or yourselves if you want to dig into how you've been using Tinder in the past. I think it can be really useful, is your Tinder usage statistics. So what it can also show you is when you log in, how frequently you log in. Like, I was amazed how often I was actually going onto Tinder when I was using it for testing. Like sometimes like 13, 14, 15, 16, 17 times a day. I never would have guessed it. It also shows you, how many messages you send versus how many messages you receive on that day. So that's really interesting because it shows you how responsive women are to you. So you can actually try to improve that ratio, improve that number. It shows you how many women you swipe right on versus how many women you swipe left on in a day, which is, again, very useful statistical data. Why? Because Tinder cares about these metrics. Tinder looks and says, well, how many right swipes does he swipe right on? How many women have swiped left on him in that day? And if that ratio is too far skewed, so if very few women are matching with you, but you're swiping right on a lot of women, that's going to negatively impact your Tinder rating. More than that, if Tinder can see that you swipe right, like you swipe through a lot of women's profiles, but swipe left on no one, like you're swiping right on everyone, it's going to penalize you. But likewise, if it sees that you're being too picky and swiping left on almost every woman you see, it says that you're being too picky, and so it's going to penalize you as well. So Tinder does penalize those extremes. It wants guys who are swiping right on about a third of all women. So being able to access these metrics really tells you what your swiping behavior is like, and it helps you adjust it so you can better suit how Tinder wants you to behave, or how Bumble or how Hinge wants you to behave, so you can get better ranking and therefore match with more attractive women. The one thing that Tinder isn't showing is your ranking, and I think that is very upsetting. I'm sure that Tinder scores a ranking system on you, like a ranking number, a score of some description. I don't think that's changed. I believe Tinder should be legally required to send it to you. Unfortunately, they're hiding it, and I'm willing to bet that it would be very complicated legally to try to force them to give it to you, that have some kind of explanation as to why that isn't attached to your user, yada, yada, yada. And you know what? I'm just not going to try to fight that fight myself. If you want to, please be my guest. But yeah, that would have been super useful to see your ranking, because then you could have really tried to improve that ranking so that you could make sure that you're getting better results. So for those of you who are interested in knowing how to actually access this data and see what Tinder's storing about you, it's actually pretty easy to get. First of all, I want you to head across to this link that I put up here. On this page, you can go ahead and log into your account right now. And then what they're going to do is they're going to ask you to provide an email address to which you want to receive your link. And that's going to be a link where you can download all the information they have about you. Now, it's really important from this point, once you've completed that, to keep an eye out for this email. First of all, because it only stays active for about 24 hours, right? So that means that if that link comes in and you miss it, or you don't check your email every day, then you're not going to be able to access your information anymore. And I think that's really shifty. Again, it's one of those shifty things that I think Tinder doesn't really want to make this stuff accessible because legally they have to. They're like being as stubborn and difficult about it as possible. But nonetheless, 24-hour link, keep an eye out for it. The second reason why you got to keep an eye out for it is because a number of my clients have had that link go through to their junk mail. So yeah, it's going through to junk mail. I don't think Tinder cares. They're happy for people to miss it. But keep an eye out for it because it's going to come through. When it does come through, you click the link and you download a zip file. Now you can open that zip file and you're going to have kind of three things. You're going to have a folder inside the zip file. You're going to have a HTML file and what's called a JSON file. A JSON file is kind of like a database file, an information storage file. If you're really geeky, you can open that and I'll throw a link down below for a free online app you can use to open the JSON file. And if you want to really go through your data, I recommend you do it that way. In other words, if you really want to look at your ratios of your usage statistics, but if you just want to see the information that's there at a quick glance, go ahead and click on that HTML. It'll open in a browser in a relatively nicely laid out fashion that gives you a quick glance at what information they're storing about you. So that's the easy way to go about it. Now, obviously, if you're not happy with the results you're getting on Tinder, the biggest change that you can make by far is going to be the quality of the photos that you have. And I know there's a lot of confusion for a lot of guys about what photos really get results on Tinder and what photos are likely to turn women off. I work day to day with guys helping them build up their Tinder profiles, and very frequently guys think they've got great photos and they're really hurting them. They're turning women off. So what I've done is I've compiled a 21-point cheat sheet for photos for your Tinder online dating profiles. You can go through, it's free, you can download it up here right now. Basically, it's a whole lot of tips, a whole lot of points to look out for, things to avoid, things to definitely include in your profile. It's going to raise your value and get you a better ranking, and therefore you can get you far more matches. So I highly recommend you go ahead and download that right now. For the rest, have you downloaded your data in the past? Did you learn anything interesting about it? Was it news to you that you could download your data? Because it certainly was to me. If you found this video interesting, as always, don't forget to subscribe to my channel. Check out some of my other videos just across here and have a fantastic week. And I look forward to seeing you in my next video.